Hi everyone, Ryan here from Fight Game Analysis, and today we are going to be talking a little bit about the potential matchup between Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. But before we jump into that, if you've been enjoying the content, please go ahead and click on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate your support. All right, so even before this last fight with Charles Oliveira, even before we saw him go out there and get an incredibly impressive win over Justin Gaethje, we were already hearing the talk about a potential fight between him and Islam Makhachev. Right? We saw Khabib just going for it hardcore, saying Islam deserved it. We saw DC going for it hardcore, saying that Makhachev deserved that title shot. We saw Justin Gaethje come out there and say, listen, man, if you guys don't give me this title shot, if you give this to somebody else, I'm going to ride. We're going to, I'm doing whatever needs to be done. I'm calling for the shot. I've earned it, not this other guy. Strength of schedule matters. Even though Islam has this incredible win streak, he doesn't deserve that shot yet. Fair enough. It was debatable. Lo and behold, Justin Gaethje ends up getting the shot. Ends up getting finished in the first round. Charles Oliveira. I'm going to say and still, even though technically he doesn't have the belt around his waist, lost it, on the antics, the theatrics, the drama on the scale by a half pound. Still some controversy about how that whole thing went down, but it is what it is. And as we stand here right now today, 155 pounds, lightweight championship, it's vacant. Right? We don't typically see that type of thing, particularly in a division like that. So we've got the belt vacant at this time. Needless to say, that immediately renews the calls. We see interviews with Khabib. We see interviews with DC. We see all these interviews. We see Islam Makhachev himself calling for the fight. Everybody's saying that now's the time Islam is supposed to get this fight. But we also hear some rumors. Right? We also hear some rumors, and I don't know necessarily where they're coming from. But we hear rumors that they're going to try and put Islam versus Beneil Dariush, maybe over in Dubai, like sometime in October, I want to say. And that they're talking about potentially doing a fight in December in Brazil. And I heard Rafael dos Anjos come out and say that he thinks that it'd be awesome for him to get that shot. Brazilian versus Brazilian, right? Him versus Charles Oliveira in December. Right, and that kind of the way he comes into the equation, because if anybody's asking why we're talking about Dos Anjos, the way he comes into the equation is because he was initially tied to Islam Makhachev before Makhachev ended up not accepting that fight. Back when Fiziev and Dos Anjos were scheduled, Fiziev has to pull out. The fight was offered to Makhachev on short notice, and then obviously he accepts. I guess he accepted, and then all of a sudden at the 11th hour he pulled out. Look, Dana White doesn't like that type of stuff. No secret there. UFC isn't fond of fighters pulling out. Cards get hindered and don't quite look as good. Things like that. So the rumor is that the reason that they wouldn't give the fight to Islam Makhachev right now is because he doesn't deserve it. He irritated him by not taking that fight. Dana White didn't like it when he pulled out. So now he's going to play him and he's going to put him in a contender fight. He's going to make him fight Beneil Dariush before he gets a shot at the belt. Will that actually play out that way? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But at this point, I'll be one of the first ones to say, I think Makhachev deserves the shot, man. I think he's the guy who's up. I think it's his time. I think it should be Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev for the belt. Right now, if you ask me, Oliveira should have the belt, but whatever, man. It doesn't matter. The fight, whoever wins that fight is going to come out as the champion. That's my guess. That's what I would want to see happen. Will it happen? We don't know. But here's the thing. How would it look if it did happen? Right? That's really the question. How would it look if it did happen? Because, man, it is super intriguing. Okay? Both of these guys are on an incredible win streak. Both of them are complete mixed martial artists. Both of them looked incredibly dominant against everybody that they fought. One little key, though, and this is a huge one. Charles Oliveira has a much tougher strength of schedule. He's been doing this for a much longer time in the UFC. He's had the ups and downs, the backs and the forth, and right now, this dude has reached his final form. He is at the absolute peak of his powers, and he is out there competing against the best in the world, dude, and he is putting out impressive performance after impressive performance. Makhachev is at a point in his career where he's putting on impressive performances, but he's on his way up, right? He's on his way up to that title shot. He's beaten a lot of guys along that way. But has he went out there and beat the strength of schedule that we've seen from a guy like Charles Oliveira? I would say no. Okay, now, that's just one thing. Now, the other thing that we got to think about is it's super easy to fall into the I don't know, the way of thinking that Islam is just a grappler. And it's because his grappling is so dominant. It's because that's where he came from. And, it's like you look at those guys from Dagestan and the way they wrestle, the way they grapple. It's funny, Khabib finally, after all this time, turns around and he said, man, if jiu-jitsu was difficult, they'd call it Sambo. So I thought that was pretty funny, just a throwback to when Tony said that about Sambo. He's like, if Sambo was difficult, they'd call it wrestling. So I thought that was a good one. But that's where him and Islam come from. They're so dominant with grappling. It's easy to think about them just that way. But that would be doing a disservice to the evolution that we've seen from Islam Makhachev's game. Okay, look at three of his last four opponents. We've got Drew Dober, Dan Hooker, Bobby Green. All of those men are accomplished strikers. I would make the argument that Drew Dober's striking is very, very good, highly underrated. Makhachev, did he go out there and outstrike him? No, but he went out there and he found a way to beat a very accomplished striker. Dan Hooker, very accomplished striker, very tricky in the way he does things. Makhachev went out there, dismantled that striking, came out with the victory. Bobby Green, is he quite on that level? No, but he's still a striker and he just went out there and just blew through him. Right? So we've seen Islam has upped his striking game enough, in my opinion, particularly his defense, where he's able to go out there and he's able to compete on the feet amongst the best in the world. I don't think he's going to go out there and win a kickboxing match against any of these dudes or anything like that, but he doesn't need to. He's not competing in kickboxing. He's competing in MMA. Now we look at Charles Oliveira. Technically, I think his striking is better. Okay? He finds ways to get his shots off. You look at every single fight he's been in recently, he gets caught. Whether he's fighting Gaethje or Ferguson or Dustin Poirier or Michael Chandler, sometimes he's just getting caught with shots. Sometimes in his fight like Chandler, he's really getting hurt. But he always finds a way to persevere and he always finds a way to get things done. That little half step back that he uses and he's able to counter with that left hook like he did against Chandler and Tony. The way he's able to go out there, he finds that uppercut. I believe it was against Kevin Lee, who was lighting him up with jabs and right hands. The way he finds the knees to the body against Dustin Poirier, man, he always goes out there and makes it happen. Just in the last fight, the right hand that he landed against Justin Gaethje. Like he has no trouble at all making his way through tough times. Being determined and just showing that effort and making it happen. Dude, and his jiu-jitsu's on a whole nother level. Right? His jiu-jitsu is on a whole nother level. Right? In some ways, I think about it the same way I think about Damian Maia. Now, their jiu-jitsu game itself, completely different. Damian Maia was super old school in the way that he worked it. He was slow. He was methodical. He worked to positions, and once he got that position, he never gave it up, and then he just worked to more dominant positions until eventually he just strangled you. And that was it, game over. Something else. Go back and watch some of his fights if you're not familiar with him. Damian Maia's jiu-jitsu was next level. He's one of those guys when they just say, like, there's levels to this. His jiu-jitsu was on a whole nother level. So Charles Oliveira's jiu-jitsu is on another level as well, but it's completely different. He's incredibly aggressive. He's fast and he's fluid. He doesn't waste any time. He doesn't necessarily go for position first, although he always finds himself in good positions, but he's all about submissions, man. He is going out there and he's trying to lock him up. He is trying to get finishes, trying to do it fast, trying to do it nasty. We see it time and time and time again. He's gotten better with his wrestling as well, right? That's always typically been one of the knocks on jiu-jitsu guys. It's like, yeah, it's great if we both start out on our knees on the ground, but these fights start out on the feet, and if you can't get it to the ground, that's a problem for you. And does he go out there and wrestle like a D1 wrestler? No. He doesn't go out there and wrestle like he's in the college ranks. He's not out there trying out, building his game, polishing it up for the Olympics. He goes out there and wrestles like he's an MMA guy. Does it from the clinch very well. Gets into these positions and drags him to the ground. Finds himself where he wants to be, man. He just goes out there and he makes it happen. So when you think about these two dudes getting into it, I think it's incredibly intriguing. It starts out on the feet. Who knows? I give the advantage to Charles Oliveira. I like his aggressiveness. I like the way he comes forward. I think that Islam Makhachev as a wrestler, guys are worried about his wrestling, so they give him a little bit of space. They let him kind of dictate the action, the flow. They let him dictate where and when the grappling will take place, and that just makes him even that much more difficult to beat. Charles Oliveira won't do that, man. He's going to come forward. He's going to be on that front foot. And one of the things that is difficult is wrestling from your back foot. So either Islam Makhachev is going to have to figure out a way to try to keep that distance, keep that space so that he can close it when he wants to, initiate the grappling, or he's going to constantly be trying to react to what Oliveira's doing. If Oliveira's being aggressive, pressing forward on that front foot, and then all of a sudden Makhachev tries to close, we see the way that Oliveira knows how to keep space. We see how he knows how to take that little half step back, throw counters. He's good in the clinch. I think he's a little bit longer than Makhachev, so maybe he's able to get that. He's able to get that Muay Thai plum and work some of those knees like we saw against Dustin Poirier. I mean, all those things are opportunities. Now, when it does get to the ground, if Makhachev is on top, I would be incredibly surprised if Charles Oliveira ended up submitting him. As skilled as Oliveira is, man, Makhachev, that grappling is just, it's something else, man. You know what I mean? It's so dominant. He understands positions, keeps his hips in the right spot, flows and knows how to ride so he doesn't get caught up in sweeps and reversals, and comes in there and lands, dominant ground and pound, knows how to work submissions of his own. Look at him, look at how he was when he flipped that arm bar around and oh my man, against Drew Dober, when he had him in that grappling exchange and all of a sudden he worked to that arm bar. I mean, he's something else, man. He's something else with the things that he does. So I don't think that he'll go out there and get submitted. Should Charles Oliveira find himself on top, Makhachev will probably be able to get back to his feet eventually, but he'll eat probably a little bit of ground and pound in the meantime. It's going to be incredibly interesting, right? When they do get into the clinch, Makhachev has those tricky little sweeps that he uses, and the way that he ties the legs up and to get it to the ground and stuff. It's just, man, I'm incredibly intrigued for this one. Can't wait to see if it happens. I do not want to see Islam Makhachev get stuck into a number one contender fight with Beneil Dariush. Just don't want to see it happen, man. Him and Charles Oliveira have been on this incredible streak. They're just on what appears to be this incredible collision course, man. Justin Gaethje deserved that shot. I'm glad that he got it, but he got blown out. He steps to the side now. Now we get to see this one. I think it's got all the makings for fireworks. So let me know what you guys think. Who do you think would come out in the win with this one? Do you think it looks great? Do you think he's even going to get the shot? Is Dana White and the UFC going to play and put him in that number one contender? And if they do, what's up with Charles? They're talking about doing a big show in Brazil in December. You got to figure that Charles Oliveira is going to be on it. And you also have to figure that if they stick Islam Makhachev in that fight in Dubai in October, he's not in that December one, right? That puts him into a fight potentially for the belt in March or April of 2023. So who gets that fight in December in Brazil against the champ if it's not Islam? Let me know what you guys think.